This episode of Bend the Knee is brought to you by Lord Jason of House Ross, Lady Amanda of House Richardson, Lord Adam, the Young Bull of House Parker, Sir Peter of House Whittingham, the Ghost of Harrenhal, Lord Nelson of the Long Isle, the Mother of Cats, Sir Joshua of House Ross, Lady Kendall of House Taylor, Lady Liz of House Hendricks, Lord Hunter the Foul-Mouthed, Captain of the Guard, Sir Dustin the Rooster Knight, Captain of the Guard, Sir Ron of House Golson, Captain of the Guard, Lady Amanda, Captain of the Guard.
Hello and welcome to Bend the Knee, a Song of Ice and Fire podcast. I am Sir Matt, the Bud Knight.
And I am Sir Ezra the Watchful. Welcome to our Song of Ice and Fire book club. Today we are into chapter 57, Sansa 5 of A Game of Thrones, and we have many more of your Season 8 Ravens still. Plenty to get through.
Oh man, there's so much. Everyone's still talking about Season 8. We're starting to see more and more talk about Blood Moon, the potential name for the upcoming prequel. Gur has been pretty busy. Seems like he's been helping write a video game. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And yeah, Sir Ezra, so much going on still in the world of Ice and Fire.
That's what we want. That's what we want. So that's good. I'm glad Gur's busy. Really. I feel like he's been busy for years. You know, I don't know what he's doing. Sometimes it seems to me that he starts a task and then he doesn't. I don't know. Does he finish it? Does he just get it going? You know, he's got these prequels. He kind of stirs the pot, throws in the ingredients, turns on the fire, and kind of walks away and lets somebody else, you know, see it to the end. I don't know. I'm excited though. I'm really excited for all this stuff that's coming out. The prequel. You said there's a video game?
It's not a Game of Thrones video game. It's just a video game that he has been working on. It was kind of teased as, you know, E3 is going on right now. It's called Elden Ring. He's working. He's helping write the story. It's being developed by the guys over at From Software. Anybody who knows anything about them knows that they are the people who helped make the Dark Souls games, which are, you know, these brutally difficult fantasy kind of action RPG games where you play as, you know, a knight and you're walking through and you're fighting these big huge monsters and you die all the time. I mean, that is like the easiest thing to know about that series is they're known for their difficulty.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I didn't know he was working on that.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprise. Just kind of came out at E3 the other day. It was showing up at Microsoft's press conference. So pretty cool. I'm excited for it.
Well, is it a surprise that he's working on another project?
That's not Game of Thrones? No, not necessarily.
I'm kidding. He's Winds of Winter's done.
I think so.
It's done. So get ready, folks. It's coming out 2020. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, at the top of the show, Sir Ezra and I like to plug our personal social medias. If you guys want to follow us there, you can check me out anywhere on the internet at Super Gainsbros on Twitter, Instagram, pretty much anywhere on the internet. Sir Ezra, where can people find you?
Yeah, over at Womprat_2M. Check me out there. Kind of been got a nice little pinned tweet everyone should go check out. A little Star Wars / Game of Thrones crossover. You should definitely go check out and like. So,
yeah.
All right. We've what else? I mean, do we have any other channel updates? I feel like we've got Raven's Nest. We've got that coming up, right?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I just thought of that actually.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, this Saturday.
On the fly business meeting, guys.
This Saturday, we've been planning it. Let's go ahead and narrow down a time right here on air, Sir Ezra. I'm gonna say.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking 8 Eastern Standard Time.
Okay.
Which is 5 o'clock Pacific Time.
Yeah.
Which is...
That's fine with me.
I don't know. Some other time, depending on what time zone you live in.
Hey, friends, that's how it's done, okay? That is how you plan Raven's Nest.
Yeah, and let's just go ahead and make it about. It's going to be season 8. Your kind of thoughts on the finale. I think we'll kind of do like a same thing we did last time, where we just kind of went round robin. Everyone gets a chime in and say what they thought about the finale and the season as a whole.
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun. We've had a couple collaborations where we've talked to folks and gotten their thoughts, but I think it's always interesting when we talk to our bannermen, because we've got a wide variety of people who like different characters and who have some strong opinions about the season.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll be fun.
Okay. All right. Well, Sir Ezra, I think let's go ahead and head on to the Maester study here. I think you have a little bit of kind of a house history that you want to get through here. I want to talk about just a little bit.
Yeah, something kind of struck. So when something strikes me in the reading, originally when we had designed the Maester's study, we kind of thought we'd start with the World of Ice and Fire, work our way through that, which we did. We still have a few region-specific things or houses we could go back to, things like that. Then we went into Fire and Blood, and we've kind of ceased Fire and Blood for the time being. May post some stuff about it on our Black Council there on Patreon, but it just, talk about dry. It got dry for a while. There's some really good parts to it, but it just was like unbelievable. We needed to really whittle it down to like 2 to 3 takeaways, and we'll bring that back for sure. But today, in the reading, when something hits me, and I can think of like some of the histories, for example, later on we'll find that Joffrey is kind of wanting the other lords of the realm to sort of pledge themselves to him. There's this big scroll. Maester Pycelle kind of reads from it, and House Hollard came up, Sir Dontos, and I was like, wait a second. I was like, wait, no, he's not already, right? But there he is. He's listed, and in this chapter, and so I thought I would bring his house history up just a little bit. He's only mentioned. He's literally just, I think, briefly mentioned once in this chapter, but he comes from an actual, like a noble house. They were very prevalent. They're known for the defiance of Duskendale. So the Mad King, King Aerys, basically, it's called the Defiance of Duskendale, and it took place during his reign. And let's see. Dennis Darklin was actually the one. He's kind of convinced by Lady Sorella, his wife, to take Aerys captive. So this is where you get some of that Barristan Selmy story in his sort of his big moment. So we have Barristan Selmy in this chapter. He has a huge moment. Sir Matt, I would say it's like the biggest part of the chapter that we want to get to and we want to cover.
Mm-hmm. It's certainly Sir Barristan Selmy's one of his most badass moments.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the king is captured here, and I'm not going to go into all the different, politics and everything, but I just thought it was interesting that this House Hollard, is basically, it goes almost extinct after they had captured Aerys, and then it was the situation was basically that Barristan Selmy, one of the Kingsguard, entered the Dunfort and rescued the king. And he kind of sneaks in, right? He kind of crawls in. He has this epic moment. He frees him. Tywin Lannister and Rhaegar are outside with their host. And really, I don't know. Remember, Tywin was kind of at odds with Aerys at the time, right, Sir Matt? He was kind of, he had showed up there to rescue his old friend, but really, Rhaegar's there. And so, if the Mad King dies, not the worst of situations, I guess. They've got Rhaegar, and he was already kind of causing some trouble and trying to blame things on Tywin, and they had some turmoil in their relationship. So it was just interesting that this defiance happens. He's captured, and Barristan Selmy keeps the old Mad King around for a little bit longer.
Right, and, because you look at the situation, like when Tywin shows up, his relationship with the Mad King had become very estranged and troubled at that point. But you have to it certainly seems like Tywin's in this position where, well, if the Mad King dies, well, wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world.
Right, right. And one of this really kind of happened over taxes, right? It happens because Lord Denny's kind of refuses to pay taxes after Aerys denied his demands of a certain of certain rights for his subjects and a town charter for Duskendale. So this was a roundabout. I can't remember exactly, but I know that Aerys was kind of going through and undoing some of what Tywin had done, or undoing it and then redoing it. So if Tywin lowered taxes, the Mad King would undo that, and then he would come in and he would lower taxes. He would raise taxes and blame it on Tywin, and then he would come in and lower it and take all the credit for it. So it was just one of those times where it was starting to get a little bit edgy, a little bit dicey between the two. And Sir Ilan Payne ends up losing his tongue during these times, and because of the stuff that he said about the Mad King. So, so House Hollard, though, which had served House Darkland during the Defiance and had this close relationship with their lords there, they were basically this this castle, is torn down. That the members of that house were executed. Only young Dantas was spared because Sir Barristan asked for mercy. And how could the king refuse when he was the one who came in there and rescued him? So I just thought it was interesting that he showed up in here. He's got this connection to Barristan Selmy, and we have a little bit of history on the Mad King and this house that has basically gone extinct, and then he turns out to be, as we know later, this drunken knight that will kind of interact with Sansa later. So really just an interesting time, and one of Barristan Selmy's coolest moments, and then we have another cool moment here for him as well too. So thought I'd bring it up in the Maester study just as a quick little aside, just some background.
Yeah.
So
all right. Well, this week as we get to the reread, we are in Sansa 5. Last week we were with Tyrion 7, where Tyrion met his father's army at the inn at the crossroads. Escorted by 300 Vale Mountain clansmen. Tyrion and Lord Tywin were discussing their war plans when Tyrion's clansmen burst in, but Tywin handles them coolly. When news arrives that Robb Stark's host is advancing, Tywin offers them rich rewards to the clansmen if they fight for him. Last time we were with Sansa. On the third day, after sneaking out to tell Queen Cersei of her father's plans to send her away, Sansa is summoned from her house arrest. She is brought before the Queen and the small council. She is informed that her father is a traitor and persuaded to write letters to her relatives explaining what has happened. This week in Sansa 5, Sansa attends Joffrey's first court session as king. After an official call for all the noble houses to pledge their fealty, the small council announces a number of new appointments. When he is dismissed from the Kingsguard, Sir Barristan Selmy storms out. In his place, the Hound is anointed to the Kingsguard. Finally, Sansa comes forward to ask for leniency of her father, and it is agreed that mercy will be granted if he confesses and names Joffrey the true king.
Wow. Yeah, this young king's taken over. He's taken over. It's his term to sit the Iron Throne, and even though he has a regent, right? His mother's still Queen Regent, and you hear her talk quite a bit. Cersei Lannister is going to do a lot of the talking for her son in this chapter.
Yeah,
but.
As always, I usually like to read just about the first paragraph, because the first paragraph really of the Gur's writing, the first paragraph just sets the tone for the whole chapter. The walls of the throne room had been stripped bare, the hunting tapestries that King Robert loved taken down and stacked in the corner in an untidy heap. Yeah. It is a new day in King's Landing. Yep.
He's dead and they've moved on. There's not. And also it seemed to me that like Sansa was mourning, right? So we find out later what she's wearing. She's kind of in mourning, and she picks her garments. They really focus. I mean, it's her point of view, but like it doesn't seem like it seems like they take those tapestries down and they move on pretty quickly. And they're not really mourning King Robert as maybe they should, or as one would think. So,
well, even in the book, it's kind of he dies, and that's kind of it. All right, Joffrey's here. Joffrey's king now. It's go time, because it happens under such chaos. It's not just a transition. It's Joffrey Robert dies, but Ned essentially storms the throne room with his men, and then he gets taken alive, and the whole deal.
You have to wonder. I know we get a little bit more later on, but just what all these different lords and what people down in Dorne thought at this time of, as you said, King Robert's dead. Eddard Stark is taken into custody. You've got the Lannisters rising and kind of probing House Tully, and Catelyn Stark has taken Tyrion Lannister. I mean, it's kind of a crazy time. You just kind of wonder what these other lords think, and that's what I thought was interesting in this chapter, is that you have this list of people that still needed to kind of come in and pledge themselves to Joffrey. So some really big heavy hitters and people who will eventually come pledge to him. But we've got a Clash of Kings first. We've got some battles to take place.
There's clearly a lot of moving pieces all at once. So if you're somebody in Dorne or the Wall, I mean, when Jon finds out about it, it seems like it's happened so long ago. When Tyrion finds out about it, it feels the same way. It feels like it happened so long ago. So news doesn't travel so quickly in the Seven Kingdoms. So it seems like everyone's on tape delay, right, when they're getting their news.
Right, exactly. So a character that pops up in this chapter that I just can't stand is Slynt. He's so he comes up so almost right away. He's a character in this, and I was thinking about different characters who emerge as you were talking there, Sir Matt, and it's like this is the first court session of Joffrey's reign, so you see all these new people showing up, and I'd almost forgotten that Joffrey has to kind of replace people on the small council, right? That's another piece to this, not just having people come from different regions to pledge themselves, but he's got appointments to make, and he's got so it's sort of getting everything organized, getting his cabinet organized, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. One of the things I really like about this chapter, Sir Ezra, is Sansa's internal dialogue. As all of this is going on, as we'll get to the Barristan Selmy scene and things like that, she clearly wants to say something. And she keeps having these internal dialogue kind of moments where she says, she thinks to herself, I shouldn't be afraid, she told herself. I have nothing to be afraid of. It will come out well. Joff loves me, and the Queen does too. She said so. This is when she's thinking about saying, please forgive my father. And then I have another one highlighted here later. Let me just pull it up here. Perhaps I don't. But she has these kind of thoughts throughout.
Well, here, I got one for you. Yeah, it will take a flock of ravens to send out these commands. All this italicized stuff, right, where she's speaking in her to herself. Yeah.
But what it reminds me of is Dany, who's in a similar situation where she's thinking about, I am the blood of the dragon. Like it's just that internal monologue, and it's just two female characters, two strong, independent female characters, as they're kind of slowly beginning to become. Both of them are going through transformations. This first book, Sansa, from the character she thought she would become, a queen and life would be so great, to wow, everything's kind of bad. And Dany in a similar situation, although I think Dany obviously rises to some sort of power a lot more quickly than Sansa, as throughout their character arcs. But I just found it really interesting that they both have that similar type of internal monologue
style,
right?
Yeah. And actually, towards the end of this chapter, I was just looking at all of those italicized bits, and she says, "Yeah, I must be as strong as my lady mother. God's give me the courage. I must do it now." She's trying to work up that strength, but yeah, you see her development in that sort of that inner dialogue there. So yeah, I like that as well. I like that. That's pretty neat. Right above that first one I just found Sir Dantos there. So he's chatting with Sir Balin. And I don't know if that's the Sir Dantos. I just looked at it and thought, well, yeah. Then the up above there it says, when a funny drunken Sir Dantos started to hail her, Sir Balin Swan whispered in his ear and turned turned him away. As Sansa's coming into the court, she's noticing that, number one, there's a lot of people who used to be there who aren't there anymore. And it's just like Renly Baratheon. People have just ducked out of the city. People who knew where their loyalties were at, or just maybe wanted to take advantage of this situation, or knew that they were more friendly with the Baratheons. Who knows? But there are people that Sansa doesn't see in the court that she expects to see. And then, you've got someone like drunken Ser Dantos who's kind of waving and wanting to say something and greet her, and everyone else is snubbing her, completely snubbing her. It's almost like she's got the plague or something. They you can't be seen talking to her and being too friendly. They almost know and are foreshadowing her fate. They know that she's tainted in a way here at King's Landing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another kind of cool thing here is they start naming people, right? Lord Stannis Baratheon, Lord Renly Baratheon, Loras Tyrell, Mace Tyrell, Hoster Tully. They're just going through this whole list. So many, the whole flock of ravens to send out these commands, right? And at the end came the name Sansa has been dreading: Lady Catelyn Stark, Robb Stark, Brandon Stark, Rickon Stark, Arya Stark. Sorry, Sansa stifled with a grap Arya. They wanted Arya to present herself and swear an oath. It must have mean her sister had fled out on the galley. She must be safe at Winterfell by now. Yeah, Sansa, Arya gets out of there, and we don't really get any of that dialogue or internal thinking thoughts with Sansa about, oh, by the way, what happened to Arya?
Yeah, right. And she assumes since because I'm guessing she would assume that they're wanting her. She would have made the same pledge that Sansa made, or written her own letter back to Winterfell if she were there in the custody of the Lannisters. So it's like she must have made it, and they're calling for her to come back and bend the knee. So I think that kind of gives her hope a little bit that her sister made it, and she just believes that she's out there maybe with some loyalists to House Stark, and they're heading back to Winterfell. That's hopeful, wishful thinking, I guess. But yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, some of those names. I mean, you've got like I thought what it did is they're mentioning the Prince of Dorne is mentioned in there. You've got House Bracken, House Went is mentioned, Blackwood, Tytos Blackwood is mentioned, Walder Frey. These are people that are being called upon to come pledge themselves, and they're the major players in this Game of Thrones. So, got to make sure that they bend the knee.
And after a lot of that, they start naming new people to council and to seats. Right? They name Tywin Lannister, new Hand of the King. They say Stannis Baratheon. Right? They say his mom's going to replace him on the small council. And then then he summons forth Jaina Slint, who you said he's kind of slimy, we don't like. And not only is he now leader of the City Watch, he also gets the ancient seat of Harrenhal, which, as any book reader will tell you, is about the worst thing that could ever happen to you.
Oh, right, yeah, it's cursed, absolutely. Not good. Yeah, that's interesting. One thing that was the murmuring that goes on when Queen Regent Cersei Lannister is put on the council. It seemed like, let's see, whenever that was at, I felt like there was that was kind of interesting that she is a woman on the council. I know that there's been other Queen Regents and things, but it's just interesting to kind of think about. She plays such a
Sansa heard a
role.
soft murmuring from the lords around her, but it was quickly styled.
Yeah. Which they're just worried about some of that backlash, but it seemed to indicate that this was unexpected, and it was uncommon practice, really. So that why not pick someone else to sit on the council and let her be the regent? Does she have to be a regent to sit on the council? I don't know that. No,
I don't think she would. I don't think she would need to be.
Yeah, I don't think so. We've seen in some of the histories in the Targaryen history that's not the case. They've got a full small council, and yet you've got you've got regents. So kind of ruling there until the king comes of age, which is crazy too. If she is a regent, I mean, Joffrey has so much say, and he really wants to wield his power right away, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then kind of comes, I guess I would say the point number 1 of this chapter, which is as Lord Slint took his place, Grand Maester Pycelle resumed. Lastly, in these times of treasons and turmoil, with our beloved Robert so lately dead, it is the view of the council that the life and safety of the king is of paramount importance. He looks to the queen. Cersei stood. Sir Barristan Selmy stand forth. Yeah, and anybody who's seen the show, or obviously read this chapter, we kind of know what happens next. Is that Sir Barristan Selmy is dismissed from the Kingsguard?
Yeah,
which is a terrible idea.
Stupid.
It's
absolutely
incredibly stupid. Because even to this point, Sir Barristan Selmy is one of the best knights, and he's in the show. I could cut through you like butter, and I'm sure he could.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm very, very certain that he could. But it's more of a show of power. That, hey, this is, again, this kind of, you go back to the first opening little paragraph there. All of the stuff from Robert's days are being taken out. This is a new beginning in King's Landing. This is a new,
it's
a new king.
Right. And what's crazy about this is Joffrey kind of accuses Sir Barristan of letting his father die.
Mm-hmm.
It's unreal. When Barristan kind of makes the statement that he served 3 kings, and it's just like, and they all died. Well, one of the reasons that one of the kings died is because the Kingslayer, which he brings up.
Yeah.
That because they promote Jaime Lannister to Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and he says, Kingslayer. Sir Barristan said, his voice hard with contempt, the false knight who profaned his blade with the blood of the king that he had sworn to defend. Wow. I mean, so he really, everything's just, you really get to see what he thinks of Jaime there. And also made me kind of wonder how much Jaime had told. Who was left to tell? Just Barristan Selmy, right? Which of the Kingsguard are left over from Ares? You've got Barristan, you've got Jaime. Were there others?
That's it.
2?
Well, I mean, once you start going to those deeper theories, then yes, possibly
right.
is Arthur Dayne still alive? All those people, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So then, you get Littlefinger, who says all of them dead, referring to the kings. Cersei says your time is done, and it's Lord Varys who says, we're not unmindful of your service, good sir. Lord Tywin Lannister has generously agreed to grant you a handsome tract of land north of Lannisport besides the sea, with gold and men sufficient to build you a stout keep and servants to your every need. Sir Barristan looked up sharply, a hall to die in and men to bury me. So I just like, though, that it's Varys who tries to kind of calm the situation, but still in a tactful way.
Yeah, and I was reminded, too, that they both seem like they're servants for the realm. That was something that Barristan brought up, is that what he does and his service here and him being a knight is for the greater good. It's for the realm. And then you have Varys kind of being one who often says that he's working on behalf of the realm. Mm-hmm. And he's the one trying to calm everything down. Just interesting little nugget there. There was also a bit, I don't know if we missed it, but where, Sir Gerald Hightower himself heard my vows. I thought that was kind of neat. So he brings up the White Bull, he brings up Prince Lewin of Dorne, Sir Arthur Dayne, the Sword of the Morning. He brings up these great knights that he fought with. So I didn't want to forget to mention those. I know we did mention just that he was one of the last remaining, but these were some of the best. I mean, the Kingsguard is kind of turned into a joke, really. And Barristan believes that if you're going to follow Jaime Lannister, who he's already called a false knight, then you're not worthy of this position. You're not a true knight. If you're going to follow a false knight, essentially, then he kind of says that to the other 5 that are standing there.
Right.
And but and Cersei warns him. As you said, she hops all over him, and then Varys kind of tries to calm everything down. But yeah, it goes a step further too. He takes his this is where he starts to kind of take his cloak off and he takes his breastplate off. He takes his doesn't even take a sword out. And I think he doesn't. He throws it. Yeah, he says, "Here, boy, melt it down and add it to the others if you like. It will do more good than the swords in the hands of these 5. Perhaps Lord Stannis will chance to sit on it when he takes your throne." I mean, that's pretty crazy. You know, it's over. There's no coming back from those words.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, and it's just
Right.
before that. Even now, I could cut through the 5 of you as easy as a dagger cuts cheese. I think in the show he says cut through you like butter, but you know, same type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I like here where Joffrey says, "He called me boy," Joffrey said peevishly, sounding younger than his years. "He talked about my uncle Stannis too. Idle talk," says Ferris, without meaning. "He could be making plots with my uncles. I want him seized and questioned." You know, no one's moved. He says, "I want him seized and questioned." Janos Slint rose from the council table. "My gold cloaks will see it to your grace." Well, they don't see to it because, you know, spoiler alert, he ends up killing a couple of them on his way out without a sword. That's how much of a boss Barristan Selmy is.
Yeah. He kind of takes the guys, and he's something else. I absolutely love him. One of my favorite characters. He's just Sir Matt and I love to do the whole who would win in a fight, you know, situation, and we like to put him up against. And Sir Matt will tell you that he would win versus everyone.
Well, I don't know anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I think there's one character he may lose to.
Please don't say Grey Worm.
No, I was gonna say Arya. You know, like
Arya,
from where
okay.
if we project out, you know, where she will be. Show Arya if book Arya goes the same way. I mean, heck, I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, it's so cool because it's the same thing that we do sometimes with like Jedi Knights. We're like in his prime or in her prime, who would win in a fight? It's just a lot of fun to do. So, but he's definitely one of the best, and we'll pay attention to him as he makes his trip over to Essos and beyond.
Yeah. There's plenty more Barristan Selmy to come.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the next thing that happens is we get, if we might resume, the 7 are now 6. We find ourselves in need of a new sword for your Kingsguard. Joffrey smiled. "Tell them, mother. The king and council have determined that no man in the 7 kingdoms is more fit to guard and protect his grace than his sworn shield, Sandor Clegane." "How do you like that, dog?" King Joffrey asked. So this is where they talk a little bit about, well, you can't join the Kingsguard if you're not a knight, and so Joffrey said, it's pretty much like, well, too bad, he's a Kingsguard now.
Yeah, right, and that is interesting. He basically says he's not going to take any vows, so it's really, as much as I like him and I like the Hound, you just send away one of the noblest knights of all time, and then you replace him with someone who's not a knight, essentially, and will not take any oaths or vows or what have you, and it just doesn't. It's unorthodox, and I don't know.
Well, he just did something entirely unorthodox by dismissing somebody from the Kingsguard.
Sure, he did. It just means the whole group. It just falls apart here, and this is a real switch in transition here. Just to some of these guys are just cutthroat, just almost sellsword like guys that you just, they're pretty good, but they just don't have the, I don't know, they don't carry with that weight that you, when you hear Sir Arthur Dayne or you hear some of these other characters. I don't know, like even Sir Balon Swan in this is a bigger deal, and I feel like some of these other knights that we're just more drawn to because of their behaviors, because of their what do you call it? They're just good guys. They're just good people. They're fighting for honor and things, right? And these guys turn into really just a batch of Cersei's, I don't know, underlings almost in a sense. Okay, so I think Sandor, he does what he wants. He's sort of going along. Yeah, he'll be in the Kingsguard, right? So.
Yeah, okay, so the next thing that happens is this is when Sansa comes forward. I must do it. I must do it now. Gods, give me courage. She took one step, then another. Lords and knights stepped aside silently to let her pass, and she felt the weight of the eyes on her. I must be as strong as my lady mother, your grace. Your Grace, she called out in a soft, tremulous voice. The height of the Iron Throne gave Joffrey a better vantage point than anyone else in the hall. He was the first to see her. Come forward, my lady, he calls out, smiling. So she comes forward, and do you have some business with the council? She says, I do. As it please your grace, she asks for mercy on her father. And this is where they pretty much they all begin to hound her about how, traitor's blood and what have we told you about traitor's blood. And Joffrey, only to essentially it's his mom who kind of convinces him, treason is treason. He asks his mother. Cersei says, if Lord Eddard were to confess his crime, we would know that he had repented his folly. Sansa thought, please be the king. I know you are good and noble. He says, only that as you love me, you do this you do me this kindness, my prince. Your sweet words have moved me. I shall do as you ask, but first your father has to confess and say that I'm the king, or there will be no mercy for him. He will, Sansa said, heart soaring. Oh, I know he will.
Oh, poor Sansa. She just wants to. She's being very brave here. I mean, she still is really naive, and she's not picking up on some of those cues that everyone kind of thinks she's tainted in a way, and that she's got this traitor's blood, and this is all mentioned. It's just not going unless her whole family comes down and bends the knee. There's really no way for them to be redeemed and for her truly to be queen, and it's just sad because it's not that she's in love with Joffrey. She's in love with the idea of becoming queen.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then through that though, she also has, she does care about her father, and she thinks that she has this connection, and she believes that Joffrey loves her. She has that moment where she tries to do these little, almost like coy little gestures where she hides a smile and tries to make, good eye contact or body language with Joffrey to try and persuade him. He almost does seem moved a little bit by it. But yeah, there's a lot more conversation going on between he and his mother behind the scenes. We'll say that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because he will confess his crimes, and he'll do what he has to do for his daughter. Mm-hmm. He's kind of defiant right now, and he's definitely not giving in. But when you bring his family and Sansa into it, put her life at stake, he'll probably do anything, right?
Yeah.
Very, very Catelyn Tully.
Yeah, exactly. That's ultimately his. He always wants to do the honorable thing, and then at the end, he does something to protect his family. He does something in a way that's kind of, you could say, like selfish, right? But that's you could almost argue is his story from the get-go. Is he essentially lies to everyone about Jon?
Yeah.
So it's not really something that is entirely out of his possibility, and I hope that that's something that is brought up later. Like when Sansa thinks about that, if it does go that way in the books, and we get some thoughts on if when she finds out Jon is really Aegon Targaryen, if it goes that same way in the books, and it's kind of revealed full circle, this is just more about who Eddard Stark is for his family.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Right. So, okay. Well, I mean, that's pretty much the chapter, right? I mean, they kind of go on for a little bit, just talking about that. Varys almost feels sorry for her, right? At the end,
mm-hmm.
he's just she's an innocent, and she's doing this just she's just so innocent, and she really does not understand. You're right when you said earlier, like she and Dany really do kind of grow the most, almost. I don't know, and or they're similar. They're almost opposites of each other.
Yeah, I'd say their arcs are somewhat similar, but they're in different situations. Dany gets an army, and Sansa does, but it's much later that she does. Sansa's certainly more. shackled by her situation than Dany is, because once Dany gets her dragons, she is more in a position to be able to kind of do what she wants. Whereas Sansa doesn't really get any power in the books. I mean, she still doesn't really have that kind of leverage in the show. Once she gets the Knights of the Vale, then that's a different story.
Right. Okay. All right. I was going to do something, and maybe I'll do this later on as sort of a cool connection. There is a mention of, you know how around Sansa you often see butterflies or moths or winged sort of imagery, right? We'll talk about that later. I was trying to do a little bit of digging on Reddit, and then just here in the chapter, there's a couple references to feeling butterflies in her stomach and things like that I thought were interesting. So if you're into that, or you want to go look up some theories, or you want to try to track down some of the stuff around Sansa and the imagery that's around her, it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting to look at, even when she's traveling with. Later on in the story, oftentimes inside of her lantern is a moth or some creature, and it's in a lot of her. Remember, we talked about that being woven into her dresses quite often in the HBO show. So I just started noticing as I was glancing back through some of these final paragraphs and her talking about how she felt going to make this request to Joffrey. So that's something maybe we'll cover at a different time, because there's been quite a bit of work done on that front. So.
Okay.
But all right, I think that's it, my friend. That it was kind of a short chapter.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
a short chapter. I mean, it's mostly the Barris and Selmy bit, and then the Sansa begging for mercy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So, okay. Well, we've got a couple ravens here, and I just want to give a shout out to Sir Ralph the Dornish Wolf. I actually think we read his raven last week or the week after, but he sent us a couple, and as he's manning the wall and has signed up on Patreon, so we wanted to give him a shout out.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure we read this and just some of his origin story, and he's got some thoughts on Bran and warging or skin changing into Drogon and different things that we thought were going to happen going into the last couple episodes. So looking forward to hearing more from him as we dive back into the books here. So. Okay, let's see. First, who do we have here? Lady Debbie Krause, I think, is our first Raven. Mm-hmm. So, all right, here we go. Season 8. I was disappointed in the holes and the slack/rusted plot points, but after seeing the last watch, so that was something that Sir Matt and I wanted to. The reason we chose this Raven is I think we're going to still do, aren't we, on Patreon, sort of our thoughts on the last watch, because seeing it really does change. I mean, seeing the reactions that some of our actors and cast members have towards the reading of that script was kind of powerful, and it actually, not that it really it didn't change a lot of what I felt about the series, but it almost did. it was powerful. So yeah, after seeing the last watch wrap up, I got a whole new appreciation for the superhuman effort put in by the people, quote, in the shadows, makeup personnel, poor mom and dad goers. So glad their little girl got to be in Game of Thrones, wardrobe experts, special effects people, CGI techs, logistic team, choreography, stunt people. So all of those different, what was Vlad Furtick, right? He's the Night King. Mm-hmm. So he gets that role. Stunt coordinator from Croatia. Yeah. So the extras, wow. And God bless the enthusiasm of Andrew McClay. So that is a really neat doc if you get a chance to go check that out and watch it. If you're a show watcher, book reader, what have you, it is a lot of work that they put into it. Have you had a chance, Sir Matt, to see it yet or see some of it?
I've seen highlights of it. I just haven't had the chance to watch it yet. I kind of plan on doing that this weekend. But I've definitely seen the highlights of it, of Kit Harington reading what he's going to do, and just kind of the instant emotion that kind of takes over him is just like is pretty awesome.
Did that change any of you how you felt about that scene? Did any of that, just seeing his reaction to the reading of the script, did that affect you?
No, not really. I still think the moment was. I think that moment was well executed. I don't think anybody was upset by the actor's performance this season. I think everyone's biggest issue this season was story writing. Typically, most everyone has said, wow, the acting was on point and the music was, phenomenal. And, obviously the visual effects and everything was super cool. I think it's just mostly story is what people had issues with. So, although when it comes to Game of Thrones, I've said this before, I really don't like watching behind the scenes stuff.
Okay. Yeah. You've said that before. Yeah.
I really don't like watching bloopers but I don't really like watching bloopers in general because for me, then I start to lose that sense of, like you suspend belief, right? When you're watching something. And so I like to think of these characters as the characters. So then once I see them, like fall off the stage or, slip or something, then it loses that, how I think of them in my mind as the characters. So but I am going to watch this one this weekend. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think too, as you say, so if you had issues with the story, I think when I was watching them read the story, I kind of felt like, wow, that's their initial take on it, and they're getting it all in one sit. Not all one sitting, but they're reading through it, and it's they weren't waiting week by week like we were and speculating and things. They're getting it all right there, so that might be a little bit more different. So, anyways, let's move on here. So let's see. Lady Debbie goes on to say just that she was breathless, filled with this sympathetic anxiety on behalf of everyone from the show. Managers, right, and different people, the security people, the location managers. Yeah, it's just a huge undertaking, right?
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy. So of course we could all imagine how much work our stars put into each shot they were in, but all of these other people were expected to be on all the time and to have everything 100% ready to go on time and in place, right down to having the right coffee available, the right coffee, the water bottles, all that good stuff, right? Being in those shots. So after watching the amazing 2-hour glimpse behind the scenes, there is no way I could not get behind Game of Thrones as the absolute miracle which these people and countless others brought into my house for nearly 10 years. The show should set a record for winning awards in so many categories, but where are the awards for the extras, the script managers, the people who kept the coffee coming, the nosy people off the sets, or what have you? Yeah, so on and so forth. The best way to award these people is to quit harping about what we as fans didn't get and try to be thankful for everything done by everyone from Kit Harington to Mrs. McCrum in the mobile kitchen. So that's from Lady Debbie, and I thought that was pretty neat, just to kind of to give a thank you. There are so many people who work on that show, and they put their heart and soul into it, and they have to have everything ready. It is what it is. It is nice. I mean, as much as we want to criticize the story, we want to praise bits and pieces of it. It's nice to step back and just appreciate all the work and the effort that went into making this come to life. Oftentimes a book series, when it's converted into a TV show or what have you, it's got a couple movies and it may fail. We've seen that with a couple different fantasy stories. And so this got finished. This actually got finished and the books didn't get finished. So
yeah, we
ought to be a little thankful, right? That we have this to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Okay. Thanks again, Lady Debbie. We appreciate it.
Okay. The next one is from Sir Weston the Enduring. He's actually sent us a bunch, and I'm glad that we finally get to play one. Because I've continuously seen his, but just when we had so many Ravens. Greetings, good sirs. First off, I want to thank you for the great content. I'm a professional triathlete, and your podcast, has entertainment through hundreds and hundreds of miles running and biking. I was listening to the podcast from a while back, episode 41, Catelyn, chapter 40, and I had an interesting thought about a what-if situation. I realized that had things gone slightly differently, Lady Robin, Little Robin Arryn, and Shireen Baratheon could have been the power couple of Westeros. We know that Jon Arryn and Stannis were discovering the secret of Cersei's children's parentage, and that they were planning to foster Robert Arryn on Dragonstone, possibly to betroth Shireen and Robert. So had Jon told Robert that Cersei's children were Jaime's and Cersei's family been removed from power, that leaves Stannis Baratheon heir to the throne, and with Shireen and Robert after him. Power couple of Westeros, all hail the Shireen and Robert. Thanks for bearing with me. I just thought it was funny to consider how much of this would have stuck in the Lannister craw. Sir Weston the Enduring.
Yeah. Well, it sure would have. It absolutely sure would have. That's interesting. Yeah. That thought had never really crossed my mind. But yeah, that probably would have been the power couple, right? I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Jon Arryn and Stannis were close, and they were figuring that secret out. That's the whole, when Eddard gets to King's Landing, where is Stannis? And why is he away and mysteriously away? And Robert's so consumed with drinking and whoring and, being, air quote, king, he doesn't even care why his brothers left.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about because, I mean, obviously Shireen's fate in the show ends up being puts her in a position where she can't really betroth anyone. But Robin Arryn is still alive in the show at the end, and he now looks a lot less awkward. He kind of looks like this small little frail kid. And what the heck clearly milk was working for that guy.
That's right.
I mean, it's like he looks like a freaking Disney, character or something now. But he's, in a situation where, I mean, is Sansa gonna get betrothed to somebody?
Yeah, actually, and they are working towards that in the books, right? It's oh gosh, what is his name from the Vale? Harry, right? Yeah, he's Harry the Heir. Is that right? So and that's, remember we brought up that whole bit about Sir Duncan and all the different people. Oh gosh, at the tourney, the trial by 7, and we were going through the different houses and the people that she had either been with. Someone had been a cool connection to the men who have been in her life, in Sansa's life, and who was kind of coming next, and it had some correlation to things that were happening in the Dunk and Egg series. I'll have to track that down. That was pretty interesting. But yeah. So Harold Harding, yes. So Harry the Heir, right? And he's sort of sometimes called the Young Falcon, is showing up. But so that's when she's still Elaine, right? She's still Elaine, and yeah. That will be coming up. We'll get more on that in Wins for sure. But wow, yeah, okay. All right, you got this next one?
Yeah, I have zero idea how to pronounce this name. Lane. I don't even want to try because I do not speak.
Just butcher it.
How would you pronounce this name, Sir Ezra?
Lamanos Zamatias.
Zamatias? Sorry. When it comes to non-English names, we're
terrible.
I apologize. Okay,
we're stupid Americans.
We're ignorant Americans over here. So anyway, thank you for sending us a raven. Well, actually, this was from the Facebook group, but nonetheless.
Yeah.
So is it clear that Daenerys is actually Azor Ahai and the dragons are actually Lightbringer? Because according to legend, Lightbringer was a flaming sword that was forged in fire and bloodied with Azor Ahai's beloved wife's blood, and dragons are fire spitting creatures that were born in the fire, and it took the blood of Daenerys' child, Drogo and Mira Mazdur. The only difference I find is that Lightbringer was forged only after the 3rd try. However, I might be missing something with Daenerys' story that might be a metaphor of attempts to forge Lightbringer.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
so is it clear?
A lot of people say, oh, the dragons were born because of there's blood magic and then fire. So the fire and blood.
Right. The dragons. Wow. So is it clear that Daenerys is actually Azor Ahai, and the dragons are actually Lightbringer?
Could be, because a lot of people say, we've talked before about the idea of Drogon being Lightbringer. We've talked before about Drogon being Azor Ahai, but I like the idea of Dany being Azor Ahai. Then you get the whole 3 heads of the dragon thing, if you want to tie that in as well, with Drogon being Lightbringer, because he's the one that actually destroys the Iron Throne, the symbol of the wheel, the thing that has caused everyone to continuously fight in Westeros. And now that's gone because he's the one that actually destroys it.
Yeah. So, that's interesting, because then that would be kind of saying that, like, the blood that's referred to here being her unborn child. Well, wait, no. Is that what they're saying here?
I kind of think so.
No. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of, like, the Nisa situation. Like, who would that be in this scenario? When you think of Dany as Azor Ahai and the dragons.
Well, I think that's what they're saying. Is it clear? I definitely don't think. I definitely don't think it's clear. No, I definitely don't think it's clear.
Okay. Yeah. That's still. I do see a lot of people talking and discussing the events of season 8 with Jon and Dany and the things that happened there at the end. Trying to sort through it all. I think the idea that dragons would be light bringers is interesting. That they are bringers of light. So they sure lit up the place when they're at the Battle of Winterfell. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that the show doesn't really break down a lot of these prophecies, especially in season 8. It just kind of forgets them. It seems like. But I think that it hints at things. So if the books and the show do go the same way, we talked about the Valonqar. Well, if it goes the same way, Cersei dies because Jaime, goes and captures her, and he takes her down to the crypts because the kind of the tunnels down there, and trying to get out. Right, like they're trying to get out, but it's also in a way Tyrion who's the one who sets the boat up. So it is possible you could have Tyrion. So either way, you could argue that the Valonqar prophecy is fulfilled, or that it's Tyrion is also the one who helps bring Dany over, and so that's ultimately Cersei's demise. And then you have the younger queen that overthrows her. So there's definitely a lot of stuff that fits that Valonqar prophecy. They just don't ever come out and say it in the show. Azor Ahai. Excuse me. You have Jon, who does still stab Dany. That could be that whole Nisa bit. And then Drogon could still be possibly Lightbringer, because as we talked about before, Drogon is the one that destroys the chair, right? And so he could bring forth Lightbringer. Or there's tons of different things you could argue. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Oh boy, we just need the books, my friend. We really, we could really use them. So, okay, I'll try to. I was doing a little digging here on the Sansa stuff that I brought up earlier. A lot of discussion about Sansa, and it's fitting. So I'm gonna get back to that later with the whole connection back to the Dunk and Egg series. I'll see if I can find it and put a link down here for you guys, because I'm close, but I don't want to waste any time looking that up here. So. All right, I think that was it for Ravens, Sir Matt.
Yeah, that's about it for this week. Continue to send us those at btkcast@gmail.com or odds on the Facebook message profile, or just continue to post stuff in the group, and we'll keep pulling that stuff and using it at the end of the episodes as we go through a reread here. Yeah.
Now, you recently did we're moving into Man the Wall, so quickly. If you would check out patreon.com/bend the knee. You did a musing, correct? A couple musings, right? Recently?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were those about?
I did one on my favorite episodes, and then I did a second one on the idea of if Bran actually is breaking the wheel or not. Are we actually in a better position politically than we were before?
Right. Okay. I like it. I like it because I saw a lot of comments on that second one, and I thought that was pretty neat. We do have an updated schedule, so Sir Matt and I have kind of come up with the schedule for the rest of the year, I think, right? Subjects we want to cover on Patreon. So if you're interested in learning about the attorney at Harrenhal, maybe what started all of this, some of the motivations behind Rhaegar, or this possible conspiracy that was set up there at Harrenhal that didn't take place, or did it, some of why Lyanna Stark was, air quote, captured, or how she became involved with Rhaegar, all that stuff that we're going to be talking about and discussing there on Patreon. And we're also doing what was the name of the new segment that we came up with for our
show watcher's guide to the books.
Yeah. So that should be a lot of fun, and we're excited for that. So go check out, even if you just want to go look at the schedule and look at the topics, we've got that posted there for free, so everyone can go just look at the schedule and see if there's, maybe there's a particular month that you want to hop in and listen to a series that we're doing, and we want to put that out there so you guys could know what was coming. So.
All right. Well, I think that is our show for this week. So, as always, we want to thank you for playing the Game of Thrones. In our next episode, we will be discussing Chapter 58, Jon 7.
If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, leave a comment, or send us a raven at btkcast@gmail.com.
We will see you in a week, and remember that winter is coming.
Thank you for watching.